This is an interesting one. Report states that 500,000, almost 600,000 drivers in the state of Washington have expired tabs. I mean, you can drive around the state of Washington for literally probably a couple of years, and you're not going to get pulled over. The law says otherwise, police say otherwise, but the reality is, and people in Washington state know, there's no real law out there that somebody says, I'm going to pull you over. So why get tabs? Just pay the fine. And that's probably not a bad game plan. Let's get into it. Here we go. Watch a quick video.
Carfax says nearly 10% of drivers in Washington state are on the roads illegally. The vehicle history company claims about 600,000 drivers are riding around with expired tabs, and is costing the state big money. Fox 13's 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣𝗏 shows us the impact.
According to Carfax, Washington state ranks in the top 10 for drivers with expired tabs. And when, with Carfax, tells me the company did its homework to get this information.
Data scientists analyzed relevant VIN-specific data from across Carfax's sources. We have 165,000 sources. That information comes into our database, and our data scientists are able to then estimate the number of cars with expired registrations per state.
With 593,000 unregistered drivers, according to Carfax, and the base tab fee in Washington at $43 and change, that would mean at the lowest estimate, Washington state is letting $25.6 million fall through the cracks. I asked the Department of Licensing if this is accurate. They told me they have no idea.
We don't know how many vehicles are driving on Washington roads with expired registrations.
Don't know.
And that's because there are a variety of reasons people don't renew.
According to a Reddit post from a few months ago, some Washingtonians are taking advantage of the situation. People say they'd rather risk the punishment than play by the rules. But if you get caught, according to Washington state law, it could cost you hundreds of dollars. I've reached out to the House and state.
And your tabs are going to cost literally $1,000 in a lot of instances for newer vehicles.
Chairs for the state's transportation committees on this topic. I'm still waiting to hear back. Reporting in Seattle, 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣, Fox 13 News.
It's a wild story. So we've got a population in the state of Washington of about 8 million people, give or take, and 600,000 of them have expired tabs. Now, you saw a population of other states that had greater outstanding expired tabs. Populations in those states, massive compared to Washington state. With 8 million people, we're not a huge population state. We've only got a couple of big population centers. You've got, you've got Seattle, Tacoma, and Spokane. Beyond that, you really don't have much in the way of big cities. And so our tabs have become so expensive that people are like, screw it. I can't, between that and the cost of gasoline, I can't afford all of this. So which one do I not pay? Well, my record for going without tabs, and only because it was an experiment, because hey, let's find out how long we can go without tabs. During the pandemic, right after the pandemic, didn't pay my tabs. And I went for a little over 2 years. And how many times was I pulled over? Not once. And I had cops tailing me. They're not doing that. They are, because it's racism to pull people over for tabs, we're not really doing that. So like 𝗧𝗜𝗠𝗘𝗦𝗧𝗔𝗠𝗣, the Fox reporter, he indicated at the lowest, $43 to renew your tabs. I mean, what are you renewing? That's got to be a super old vehicle. My car in the state of Washington, I have a 2014 Jeep Grand Cherokee Limited, and I just renewed tabs on that to the tune of $400 maybe, something like that. $400. I think that's what it was. Not huge, but also that's an 11-year-old car. It's not a new car by any means. And if you have a newer car, you could be looking at $1,000. You could be looking at $1,200, $1,500, no problem. So people are saying, well, fines, what, couple $100? Pay it. And just risk the going to court again. Risk the fine. I mean, why wouldn't I do that? Because they're not finding people. I have noticed more police in the area where I am, King County. I have noticed more police on 520, which is a freeway going back and forth between Seattle and Bellevue. I've seen more police there. Those are state troopers. And then I have seen more people pulling people over here in the city of Bellevue than I have since the pandemic. So word must be out. Hey, let's go after crime again. I mean, that's kind of how it feels, because you didn't see cops on the road in my community. You didn't see cops on the road for a long, long time because, you know, all cops are racist and they're only pulling over people of color, apparently. No, they're pulling over everybody. That's their job. They see something, they pull them over. That's how this game works. Data scientists analyze relevant VIN specific. We get into that. 165,000 sources. So the 4325 was for the lowest possible value. So, you know, triple that, quadruple that. You're probably looking at 100 million of lost revenue that the state could spend on homeless industrial complex. Yeah, I mean, they could spend it on graffiti abatement. They could spend it on potholes. They could spend it on spiffing up homeless communities. Yeah, they could, the uses for this money are endless, right? But you've reached a situation where people are like, we know they're not going to pull us over for tabs. It's just basically law. It's not real law, but it's perceived law because of, you got it, racism. And tabs are so expensive. And gasoline is some of the highest in the United States because of this cap and trade ridiculous program to reduce carbon emissions. Who gives a crap? You know what I mean? You kind of get to a point where you're like, yeah, don't really care about all your ridiculous environmental concerns. They're making my life really expensive. Go F yourself. That's kind of the point I'm at. It's just, I don't care. Yep, I'm putting that in the garbage. Not recycling. I refuse to comply. Boop. I put most everything in the recycling because I feel like it makes me a better person. I don't know. I just like to recycle. Oh, is it recycling? Wash it out. Don't have any food products in there. Yeah. According to Reddit posts from a few months ago, some Washingtonians are taking advantage of that and intentionally not renewing their car tabs. Again, I went over 2 years without, the cops weren't pulling anybody over for anything then, let alone car tabs. $400 ? My last tab renewal was something like $1,200. That's when I decided I'd rather just pay the ticket. Makes absolute sense to me, right? I mean, Seattle 13 reached out to Washington State Senator Marco Lias. Hey, Marco, you got any real good information here for us? Who chair their respective Senate and House Transportation Committees? Not heard back. I mean, is this a shocker? No, it's not in any way, shape, or form. Here's kind of one more layer on the whole topic. Recent bill. When is this? This is January, I think. January 2025, January of this year. Police would not be able to stop drivers for broken headlights, recently expired tabs. We all know that this is in play. Tabs? You don't have to worry about that. They're not going to pull you over. Remember back in the day, they'd pull you over for tabs, and then maybe you had open container of alcohol in your car. Who knows? One of the reasons that I decided to get my tabs is I just don't want to be pulled over. I got nothing to hide, but I'm like, all right, I got to pay 400 something bucks. Let's just go do this. I mean, this is absurd. I got away with it for 2 years, didn't pay because I just wanted to kind of see, some would say that, oh, you're a rule breaker. Well, I mean, I'm talking about it now. So it's technically for work, right? Yeah. All right. No, I just wanted to kind of see. And everybody's, yeah, your tabs are expired. Oh, all right. And, well, they're going to pull you over. Well, it's been 2 years. I haven't been pulled over. Well, they're gonna. Nah, I don't think so. Okay. All right. But that one time when you do get pulled over, you're like, oh, this sucks. Now, I just, got to that point where you're like, all right, let's put some tabs on this bad boy. Police in Washington State would not be able to pull over drivers with broken headlights or recently expired registration tabs. The recently expired portion there, it all kind of goes into one pile, which is, yeah, we don't really care about tabs anymore. So we've got the bill's sponsor said he wants officers to focus on more dangerous drivers. I do not agree with that philosophy at all. I think you start with the very simplest of offenses and you build up from there. That way there's an expectation of just don't do normal shit wrong. Just don't break laws. Like, don't have expired tabs. Don't do it. Just don't do it. Just follow the rules. The rules are there for a reason. I want people to be pulled over for speeding. I want people to be pulled over for signs and symptoms of drunk driving. I am less worried about tabs. I'm less worried about one broken taillight. Yeah, except for when that one broken taillight leads to human trafficking in the back seat. Oh, and then you're not catching those women being sexually trafficked into the country because you missed out on being able to pull them over for that one broken taillight. Now, the flip side to that is the left is always going to say, well, people of color get pulled over more. Well, maybe it's because they don't pay for their tabs. Maybe because they've got more broken taillights. I don't know. Come up with something. But don't have everybody not get pulled over for ridiculousness just because of one group's inability to do simple maintenance or follow the law. That's what I'm saying, right? Officers would still stop drivers who are not wearing seatbelts, okay? Have cars without license plates. I don't believe that for a second. We see plates in Washington all the time with no plates. Just no plates. That used to be a cop comes running, pulls you over. You got no plates. Is this stolen? There are so many stolen cars in Washington state that it's just not a thing. It's car drives by with no plates. All right. Yeah, pretty standard. I mean, it was probably just stolen from up the road, just stolen. My stolen car story. Well, my two stolen car stories are, I'm just going to do the one. My son, who's no longer with us, who passed away, he had his vehicle stolen from Queen Anne in Seattle. And it ended up at a kind of a chop shop homeless complex in South Seattle. It had been stripped. It had apparently been stripped. This is a red Honda, like a 1999 Honda that had been lowered. The whole thing was just, it was one of those cars. It was like, no, you shouldn't buy that, son. I want it, Dad. I want it. And so I helped him out with that one, and he got this car, and it's ridiculous, and it got stolen. And vehicle ended up, I had a call a few months later. I can't remember how long it was, maybe 6 months later, from the person who handled property and grounds on the Air Force Base on Whidbey Island Air Force Base. So it went from South Seattle up to the Whidbey Island Air Force Base. And it gets better. This story gets better. So somebody stole it from a lot in South Seattle and made it up its way up. And it was totally stripped. It had really cool tires. It had like $1,500 worth of rims and tires. That's the only thing that was really good on that. And it was a Honda. It was going to go forever. So it's stripped out up at Air Force Base in Whidbey Island, which is to the north by a couple hours. And then 6 months after that, I start getting the woman at the Air Force Base called me because my phone number was on my son's death certificate. And she was like, hey, do you want your son's car? And I'm like, it's already been stolen what we think is twice now. You're telling me, no, I don't want this car back. No use for the frame of the car. And then I start getting parking violation notices, and that my son is going to be drug into court because he has so many parking violations in Pasadena, California. Made it to Pasadena. Cars in Pasadena.
A car that gets 26 miles per gallon would pay about $7.
It's literally physically in Pasadena per the VIN numbers.
Mileage, so for
wild stuff, right? I mean, it's like so a car driving around with no license plates. Yeah, I mean, maybe. Who knows? Maybe. But then again, it's probably just some dude who, can't be bothered to get tabs or get his license plate or do anything but drive around and maybe do a little sexual trafficking. And, that's pretty normal. But don't pull him over because he might have a broken taillight. No, we wouldn't want that. Police could also stop someone driving a car with equipment that poses a danger to the community. Drivers with faulty equipment, yada, yada. Police organizations testified against the bill when it had a hearing before House committee. This makes law enforcement riskier and harder to do. It sends a strong message that this legislature really doesn't support our policing. 100%. We know in the state of Washington, it's blue run. They're not really gonna hassle you for, not having tabs. 600,000 people out of 8 million don't have tabs, apparently. Here's state of Washington's explanation. We don't know how many vehicles are driving on Washington roads with expired registrations. That's because there's a variety of reasons people don't renew. Perhaps they sold the vehicles. Maybe. They've moved out of state. Okay, all right. 600,000 of them. Their car was totaled. Again, 600,000? Maybe they decided to keep the car garaged for several years, said Rob Weeman. Weeman? Is he Weeman? What? Rob Weeman? I'm a big jackass man. Weeman with the DOL. We simply don't know, and we don't ask why, and we don't track them down. We only track active registrations. Oh, state of Washington. Make me proud. No accountability. So while I am paying my tabs, for the most part, went a couple of years there without any. So while I'm paying my tabs, I think I have, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 vehicles, 6 vehicles. 2 cars, 1 truck, 1 SUV, a boat, 2 jet skis, and a trailer. Just a bunch of nonsense to tab. But while I'm paying those tabs, and most of those tabs are not that much, while I'm paying those tabs, you got 600,000 people that are just willy-nilly driving along the road because the explanation here by the state is that their car was totaled. No. Moved out of state? No. You got more people moving in state than out of state, right? And maybe they're just keeping their car in the garage for several years. Come on. You can do better than that. You might as well just come right out and say, hey, yeah, we have no idea. There's probably just a crap ton of Washingtonians not paying their tabs and driving around. But, it's not really up to us, is it? No, it's up to the police. Well, we don't have enough cops. And they're right. It's not a huge public safety issue, but it's also one more of those things that police used to stop people for expired tabs. I got an expired tab fine when I was a kid, I think 16 or 17. And I got an expired tab that year on top of I had studded snow tires on in like April, just beyond the time period. I was driving a paper route. I was driving a paper route when I was 16 or 17. The Bellevue, the Journal-American is what it was called. Journal-American newspaper. And a cop pulled me over in West Bellevue. Very annoying. But, you grow up experiencing, if I don't have tabs, I could get pulled over, and then whatever shenanigans I got going in the car on top of that, I'm responsible for. But now you don't have to have anything. Registration, title, oh, hell no. Tabs, optional. License plates, who knows where those went. You know what I mean? There's just all of this stuff that goes to the broken window theory, which is if you allow this to just go, unchecked, uncontrolled, you're not pulling over for this, you're not pulling over for that. That's how you get a situation where a car gets stolen, restolen, stolen again, and then transported to another state. Wild stuff. It's wild stuff. So Washington State, I'm not encouraging people to not pay their tabs, but some might say, at the moment, it's temporarily optional. 600,000 people out of 800 million say, yeah, it's optional. We ain't paying them. So interesting numbers, interesting story. All right. That's it for me. Thanks so much for being here. Love to have you subscribe, do all that good stuff, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.